Thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top story. Bashir Diomaye Faye begins a new era as he takes the oath of office, becoming Senegal's fifth and Africa's youngest elected president.
It will also inaugurate new hopes for the future that will open up new avenues for development in Senegal, political development. The economy will be restructured, and many other areas will be revisited.
The Dixon Court of Conakry resumes trial of September 2009 massacre as ICC threatens to intervene, citing the Rome Statute.
In absolute terms, if Guinea is unable to carry out the trial, yes, but it is not in our agenda to consider the recall of the accused.
Ghana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs justifies 400% passport fee increment despite criticism from parliamentary minority caucus.
Until we are ready to pay the realistic fees for passports, we will have problem. Togo, $40, supplied by the same supplier who supplied us with the passports.
And the Gambia to hold a national census after a decade. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Liberia, and Ghana. Just a few minutes ago, Bashir Diomaye Faye took the oath of office as the fifth president of Senegal in a jam-packed exposition center in Diamniadio. President Faye, 44, is taking over the affairs of the country from former President Macky Sall, whose term in office officially ends today, April 2. Many Senegalese describe this day as epic in the country's democratic journey, following attempts by the outgoing presidency to delay the transition. The last democratic transition was in 2012 between former President Abdoulaye Wade and the outgoing head of state Macky Sall. Here is an excerpt of his oath taken.
Devant Dieu et devant la nation sénégalaise.
In front of God and in front of the Senegalese nation, I swear to faithfully fulfill my responsibilities as President of the Republic of Senegal, to observe and to make people observe scrupulously the Constitution and the law, to use all my forces to defend the territory, national independence and territorial integrity, and to act in protecting African unity.
Aucun effort pour la réalisation de l'unité africaine.
Diomaye Faye is currently giving his first speech as the president. Meanwhile, the Senegalese political analyst says President Bashir Diomaye Faye can only address Senegal's prevailing challenges through national support, with unemployment and the high cost of living at the top of current circumstances. Professor Gugi Jeng urges cooperation from within and outside Diomaye Faye's political sphere to drive his political ambition in the interest of the state. According to Jeng, the new president manifesto should now be seen as a national roadmap for Senegal's development.
As they have decided to change things in Senegal, they will do whatever they can in order to achieve this, even though the new president has never held any administrative leadership position. I believe that he will do whatever he can in order to achieve the goals set in their program. And he will be assisted in this respect by the members of his political party, by the members of his coalition, and also by the other experts in Senegal, because it is not only a political party business or a coalition business. It must be seen from now on, as he has been elected by the Senegalese nation, as a program of the Senegalese nation. And I believe that everybody will be involved, even those who have been against them in the program, because they now represent the whole country. So I believe that everybody will do whatever they can in order to help the new president achieve his goals.
Well, we'll be discussing more about this in our interview segment. Now, former President Macky Sall takes a bow as Senegal's fourth democratically elected president after more than a decade in office. Sall, according to analysts, indeed led the country through a period of global financial and health crisis, yet retaining its resilience while promoting prosperity. Senegal may have come to the limelight even more when Macky Sall chaired the African Union with attempts to position Africa, but especially his country, on the global stage. A political genius, Sall, in spite of his successes, is leaving behind a country whose population are yearning for more over perceived gaps due to some socio-economic reforms. Well, Abdulhassan takes a review on Sall's performance.
President Macky Sall took over from Abdoulaye Wade in 2012, promising to revamp the nation's economy, fight against graft, and improve the living condition of citizens. Sall boasted to deliver his promises owing to his years of experience in the public service, first as a Prime Minister from 2004 to 2007, President of the National Assembly from 2007 to 2008, and Mayor of Fatigue, his hometown, from 2009 to 2012 before his presidential bid. Sall also held several ministerial positions, providing him with the knowledge and roadmap to the presidency. The outgoing president, after taking his oath of office, continued with the vision of his predecessor, Wade, including transformative policies in economy, transportation, education, agriculture, the extractive sector, and particularly infrastructure. Senegal today boasts of an eco-friendly rapid bus transport and light rail systems, both serving as models for other African countries. The nation's economy may have been at its best, but challenged with the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, which coincidentally would add to the list of issues that sparked outrage during his second term as president after his re-election in 2019. The country faced challenges on the domestic front, notably with the rise of opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, a former tax inspector turned politician. For 3 years, angry opposition supporters led protests fueled by allegations of Macky Sall's third-term agenda. At least 60 people have been killed in protest violence since then, and hundreds of political activists jailed. An Afrobarometer poll conducted in 2022 revealed that almost 3/4 of Senegalese citizens believe the government is mishandling the nation's finances, with 62% of respondents saying the economic outlook was unfavorable, compared with just 33% 5 years earlier. Migration also increased during Sall's presidency, with thousands of Senegalese making the dangerous journey to Europe due to dissatisfaction with the economic situation at home.
Abdulhassan filed that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's bring you more stories now as we head to Togo, where the adoption of a new constitution is still the subject of debate. The National Assembly is due to begin a second reading of the text at the request of President Faure Gnassingbé. There was African Civil Society Forum, FOSCAO, which brings together around 1,000 organizations from the 15 ECOWAS member countries, is critical of Togo's constitutional reform. FOSCAO is calling for the people of Togo to be involved, even if it means organizing a referendum as required by the Togolese constitution. Komlan Messia is executive director of FOSCAO.
In the situation of the constitution modification in Togo, our analysis is just to have the different parliamentarians that actually brought the initiative on the table to go to the population for better explanation, for more education, and to include the population in the whole process. Population have to be consulted, and this consultation needs to have a freedom of speech, freedom of expression, so the citizen can express their voice, can voice up if they agree or not. So it shouldn't be only one camp that is spreading the word, but also to have a debate about the different process and what is going on. Population need to be included in the whole process. So we plead for inclusivity on the whole process from the parliamentarian of the country.
That was Komlan Messia, the executive director of FOSCAO. Now let's take you to Guinea, where the Dixon court is resuming the trial of the September 2009 massacre after proceedings were suspended last week following an appeal lodged by the defense at the Court of Appeal. The case resumes with confrontations between the accused. On a visit to Conakry, the deputy prosecutor of the International Criminal Court warned that although the option is not on the table for the time being, the ICC has not ruled out taking over the trial if Guinea proves unable to see it through to the end. Well, Francis Boniface has the rest of the details.
The defense lawyers had asked the Conakry Court of Appeal to instruct the president of the Dixon Court in charge of the 28 September 2009 case to give a clear ruling on the recharacterization of the facts requested by the prosecution. The request was rejected at the end of last week by the Court of Appeal, which then ordered the proceedings to continue. The deputy prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Manjai Nyang, provided further clarification on the issue of the reclassification of facts.
For the reclassification, those who say that they think that we have exclusive competence in these matters, no. In fact, when a country adheres to the treaties of Rome, the first of its obligations is to domesticate the treaties. That is to say, to put in its penal code the same infractions as those that are transferred to the treaties of Rome.
The ICC deputy prosecutor also asked the Guinean judges to see the trial through to the end, at the risk of the international courts taking up the case.
In absolute terms, if Guinea is unable to carry out the trial, yes, but it is not in our agenda to consider the recall of the accused.
Manjai Nyang also commented on the Colonel Claude Peavy's disappearance, one of the main defendants in the 2009 massacre.
The court has not yet decided on the name of the accused. The accused is on the run. His escape does not stop him because justice will follow his case. There are condemnation proceedings. There are also proceedings that are not even condemnation, because someone who was present during a certain part of the trial in principle should be able to judge him and, if necessary, prosecute him without it being condemnation.
It remains to be seen whether the defense lawyers will appear in court today, April 2nd, for a continuation of the debates, as they had promised to boycott the hearings if the president of the court does not deliberate on the request for a reclassification of the facts by the public prosecutor.
Francis Boniface has filed that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Bashir July 5 begins a new era as it takes the oath of office, becoming Senegal's fifth and Africa's youngest elected president. The Dixon Court of Conakry resumes trial of September 2009 massacre as ICC threatens to intervene, citing the Rome Statute. And still ahead, Ghana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs justifies 400% passport fee increment despite criticism from parliamentary minority caucus, and the Gambia to hold a national census after a decade. We do have a guest interview segment, a press review, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on WADR.org, YouTube, and Facebook. The Gambia is set to conduct a digital population and housing census after the last such exercise in 2013. The 2024 population and housing census will be implemented by the Gambia Bureau of Statistics in collaboration with relevant government agencies and development partners. From Banjul, Sankli Janko reports that the census begins on May 25 and ends on June 14, 2024.
The 2024 exercise is branded "For this population census is Everyone Counts." Partners of the Gambia, including the World Bank, the United Nations Population Fund, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, are providing financial and technical support for the conduct of the census. The main objective of the 2024 population and housing census is to provide statistics on the population's demographic, social and economic characteristics, and household and housing characteristics. This information helps central and local governments to plan for various social services such as education, health, housing, sanitation, and others. The 2024 census is expected to generate data to support the National Development Plan 2023-2027 and for monitoring the African Union Agenda 2063 and the Global Agendas Agenda 2030. The population and housing census is conducted in the Gambia every 10 years, with the last such exercise carried out in April 2013. The Gambia's current population, according to GBOS, stands at 2.5 million people. For Newslink in West African Democracy Radio, I am Sankuli Jenko reporting from Banjul.
Ghana's Minister of Foreign Affairs has justified an over 400% increment in the price for passport acquisition. The minister argues that the previous rate at which Ghanaians were acquiring passport was not realistic and thus putting undue pressure on the government, which to date subsidizes the cost of production. The minority in parliament has, however, criticized the move, describing it as ill-timed, suggesting a rather gradual increment to an instant adjustment. From Accra, WADR's Nadedi Tete completes the story.
According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, the proposed increment is to reflect the increase in printing costs in order to curb losses the state incurs in printing passports, arguing that Ghanaians compared to other citizens in West Africa pay less. The Committee on Foreign Affairs report on Ghana's 2024 budget estimates highlights that Ghana's passport fees are $7.7, the lowest in West Africa. Comparatively, other countries in the region charge significantly higher fees, with Cameroon at $180, Guinea at $57, Guinea-Bissau at $65, Burkina Faso at $80, and Nigeria at $54.29 for passport services. Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs Kweku Amprechum Sapong says that it was high time Ghanaians paid realistic prices for passports.
Until we are ready to pay the realistic fees for passports, we will have problems. Togo, $40, supplied by the same supplier who supplies us with the passports. Liberia charges $40, we charge $8, meaning we are having to subsidize every passport.
Minority spokesperson on Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa argues the increment should have been graduated instead of the instant adjustment.
Our foreign ministry virtually derelict and woke up suddenly and they want to slap this over 400% increase. That is why we suggested that let it be graduated, because if you look at other countries who left us behind, it was being done gradually.
Effective April 1, standard passport application fees have increased from 100 cedis to 500 cedis for the 32-page booklet, roughly from $8 to close to $40. For the 48-page booklet, fees have risen from around $12 to approximately $50. Expedited services have also increased, with a 32-page booklet now costing $53 instead of the $12 it used to cost, and 48-page booklet priced at $60. For WADR, Nadedi Tete, Accra.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We head now to Monrovia as we join Darlington Popper for the newspaper review.
For today's edition of Press Review, we have the Front Page Africa newspaper, the New Dawn newspaper, and the Inquirer newspaper. We begin a review process with the Front Page Africa newspaper. Bad apples within. We need to take immediate action to clamp down on drug smuggling. We will leave it right there. Stay on the Front Page Africa newspaper. Deadline to exchange old money extended. On the back page of the Front Page Africa newspaper is all about sports. From the Front Page Africa newspaper, the New Dawn newspaper is next. Nibayans descended on VP Kun. We take a gist of this story. Vice President Jeremiah Kun has been criticized by the people of Neighbor County for allegedly abandoning several projects, disappointing citizens told reporters that since the elected Kun first in the House of Representatives and then in the Senate, where he spent 3 years before becoming vice president, he had never completed any project initiated. We will leave it right there. Stay on the front page of the New Dawn newspaper. Court demands proof of vehicles ownership in assets recovery case. On the back page of the New Dawn newspaper, CBL confirms extension of cash retriever. That's the Central Bank of Liberia. Our last stop for today's edition of Press Review is the Inquirer newspaper. Court demands gracious route management legal capacity to sue. We inherited non-existent ministry, Mika Boss asserts. That's the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. I did not steal, Nuka Boss clarifies. RMP to lay off unqualified officers. This paper has reliably been informed that the Liberian National Police has announced plans to lay off several officers from the police force due to their involvement in alleged corruption, raising the dark cloud over the RMP. Our source from within the RMP disclosed that the disclosure is also against the backdrop that some of the officers did not pass through the proper recruitment processes before getting into the force, as well as the fact that some of the officers have overstayed, thus reaching the benchmark for retirement. We will leave it right there. We see the photograph of Police Inspector General Gregory Cromer on the front page of the Inquirer newspaper. On the back page of the Inquirer newspaper, Boaka implements local government act through employment. We see the photograph of President Joseph Yoman Boaka. On that note, that is how I would love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. But before we go, these are the newspapers we actually followed on today's edition. We followed the Front Page Africa newspaper, the New Dawn newspaper, and the Inquirer newspaper was our last stop. On that note, thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Indeed, many thanks, Darlington Popaday, Monrovia, with the newspaper review.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Well, we continue in the discussion on the new tenure President Bashir Jamai 5, who was sworn in a few minutes ago. Our guest is Professor Gegi Jen. He takes a look at the expectations of the Senegalese population in this new administration.
We believe that that will open up new avenues for development in Senegal, political development. The institutions will be maybe reshuffled. The economy will be restructured. And many other areas will be revisited by the new generation because this is what is expected from them. And if they don't really succeed in doing that, that will be a great disappointment for the whole of Senegal and the whole of West Africa. And I believe that this is also very important for West Africa because this is the result of elections. In most parts of West Africa, we have changes, political changes following coup d'etats. But here we have a political change following a fair and open election. So this is something positive for West Africa.
A young president who has never held such position will open new avenue for political and economic developments in a country of about 80 million people?
Well, I mean, this is the challenge I think the new president have got to pick up, and this is present in their manifesto. They didn't really talk about their manifesto too much during the campaign and before the election, but after their victory, they have released a document in which they have, to tell the truth, a rather attractive program. And I believe that as they have decided to change things in Senegal, they will do whatever they can in order to achieve this, even though the president-elect, the new president, has never held any leadership position apart from his within his political party, even though he has never held any administrative position, a leadership position. I believe that he will do whatever he can in order to achieve the goals set in their program. And he will be assisted in this respect by the members of his political party, by the members of his coalition, and also by the other experts in Senegal, because it is not only the political party business or a coalition business. It must be seen from now on as he has been elected by the Senegalese nation as a program of the Senegalese nation. And I believe that everybody will be involved, even those who before today have been against them in the program, because they now represent the whole country. So I believe that everybody will do whatever they can in order to help the new president achieve his goals.
Our guest was Professor Gegi Jen, a political analyst. And in sport updates, United States of America's men's under 19 national team coach of Nigerian descent, Michael Ncien, has declared his interest in the vacant Super Eagles coaching job as the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, continues its search for a substantive coach. While addressing a news conference in Abuja on Monday, Ncien says with his qualifications and experience, he remains the best man to succeed Jose Peseiro as the Super Eagles coach. Ncien is one of the contenders for the Super Eagles job, with ex-internationals Emmanuel Amunike and George Finidi, as well as other candidates, being muted. The NFF advertised the Super Eagles coaching job 2 weeks after Portuguese coach Peseiro left the job on the expiration of his contract. And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Chris Mukwidi and Maudo Ju for the technical assistance. Let's keep the conversation going on our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, at WADR News, and Facebook, West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,